Salam konservasi.
Salam Lestari!
Hey NAAE, my name is Boni Irawan. Greetings from Melbourne, Australia. I am an environmental educator who teaches at a public university in Riau Islands, an archipelagic region in Indonesia. I have been teaching since 2015 with interest in environmentally impactful learning through a series of collaborative environmental projects. I designed my class to facilitate students to help solve marine environmental problems found in the archipelago. For 8 years, the students in my courses have routinely launched collaborative environmental projects, mainly in the form of mangrove planting and beach cleaning activities. Now, I'm pursuing my PhD under supervision of Professor Alan Reid and Associate Professor Gillian Kidman, and this provides an excellent opportunity to reflect on my previous professional conduct as an educator. I am excited to share this autoethnographic account with the NAAE Research Roundtable. Please join me as we make sense of my 8 years of experience collaborating with various stakeholders, sponsors, and the community. First, let's take a walk down memory lane and revisit 6 iterations of environmental projects conducted in my courses. As the largest archipelagic country situated between 2 major oceans, Indonesia boasts some of the world's most beautiful and dynamic marine ecosystems and is home to the largest and richest diversity of mangroves worldwide. Mangrove forests are vital, supporting global ecosystems in numerous ways, both ecologically and economically. Mangroves on muddy substrates are known for their high carbon storage capacity, a valuable trait in combating climate change. However, mangrove loss is prevalent in developed areas, making rehabilitation efforts essential. In the marine biology and mangrove ecology courses that I taught, I facilitated students to identify the issue of mangrove deforestation and to design and organize projects aimed at addressing it. Here is the documentation of 6 mangrove planting projects we carried out in the Bintan Island, Indonesia. The first planting site was in Berakit, Bintan Island, where we completed our first mangrove planting project in 2017. Participants were limited to students from my department, some academics, and representatives from one government agency, our sole collaborator for the project. This was a pilot project focused on field learning with minimal extra activities and outside involvement. We raced against the tide and planted 1,000 mangrove seedlings throughout a rainy day. The second planting site was another beachfront area at Berakit. This project built upon the first. We strengthened our ties with the National Forest and Riverine Conservation Body and learned that our government partner valued a sense of officiality for this event. So we designed this project as a mix of field learning and formal event, complete with an opening ceremony and leadership figures planting the first mangrove. On that day, in early 2018, we planted 1,500 seedlings on a sandy beach with a receding mangrove line. The third site was another sandy beach in Malangrapat, Bintan Island. By the third project, our list of partners had grown significantly. In December 2018, more than 20 entities supported and sponsored the event, where we planted 2,500 mangrove seedlings. We had media partners, logistics partners, sponsors, and various community groups participating. We expanded our reach by making the event more engaging, incorporating a revised educational component.
Kami dari mahasiswa pendidikan biologi angkatan 2017. Di sini tujuan kami untuk penanaman mangrove sebagai bukti tanda bahwa kami peduli dengan lingkungan, kami peduli dengan kelestarian makhluk hidup yang ada di lingkungan pesisir.
Before the planting, my students and I spoke on regional radio and TV about environmental issues and the upcoming project.
Kegiatannya tadi saya tanya berapa rutin ya?
Kita rutin adakan paling tidak itu setiap semester. Setiap semester kita adakan kegiatan ini sebagai bentuk tanggung jawab sosial dan tanggung jawab profesional kita terhadap masyarakat dan lingkungan.
We held a photo contest and offered a fun door prize. We also refined the presentations and formality aspects. At this point, our track record in the region was well known, and from then on, finding partners for each project became easy. The next planting site was an abandoned bauxite mine in Tanjung Pinang City. This site was unique because it's located inland, away from the coast, but regularly flooded by seawater during high tide. This project aimed to bioremediate the land by planting resilient pioneering mangrove species.
Mangrove ini bertemakan Protect the Mangrove that help protect our island.
Yang mana yang sudah kita nanti-nantikan yaitu
Banyan Tri Bintan bekerjasama dengan Universitas Maritim Raja Ali Haji dan berbagai pihak lainnya menggelar gerakan penghijauan di kawasan Pulau Bintan, yaitu
We completed 2 planting projects here with over 3,000 seedlings. One of our findings was that Rhizophora cronata thrived in the red soil, resulting in the highest seedling survival rate compared to other planting sites. We maintained collaboration with most of our previous partners, while also gaining some new ones. This planting project attracted more than 500 participants, with a diverse range of ages and nationalities.
Lahan boksit ini kita tidak punya banyak pilihan sebetulnya. Kita harus rehabilitasi, kita harus remediasi. Salah satu pilihan yang baik itu adalah dengan bioremediasi melalui mangrove. Kita harapkan nanti mahasiswa tetap bergerak karena masih banyak tempat dan lokasi yang butuh sentuhan para pecinta lingkungan.
Our next planting site was a beachfront area in Tanjung Pinang City. We carried out this project in late 2022 when COVID restrictions had eased. This time, we scaled back the event to focus on academic engagement without public participation, but maintained our partnership with the National Forest and Riverine Conservation Body. When I started teaching marine biology and mangrove ecology nearly 10 years ago, I saw myself primarily as an educator who was anxious about environmental problems. As a former student activist, I knew the power of good initiatives and had experience in mass mobilization. Since then, I've embraced the role of educator/activist, using each iteration of my environmental projects to create greater impact. I reflected on ways to make learning more effective and engaging for students, to reach a wider audience and raise environmental awareness, and to increase the environmental impact of our efforts. I fit the category of a self-reflexive practitioner according to definition by Sean. However, seldom did I reflect on what I learned personally or how these experiences reshaped my values, view of environmental activism, and professional growth. I was entrenched in the praxis, and after years of little steps, I realized that through my courses, my students have planted more than 10,000 mangrove seedlings. For the early career educator me, this was a satisfactory achievement. However, I recognize the need to improve my researcher identity. Autoethnography was chosen as the first project of my PhD journey, reflecting my background and aspiration and capitalizing on the expertise and experience of my supervisors. For this research roundtable session, I would like to share how we make sense of my experience in navigating partnerships and collaborations to deliver sustainable, scalable, student-led environmental projects. We employed collaborative reflexivity according to Malauren and Avison to generate themes from a set of documents and photographic and videographic artifacts. In the collaborative reflexivity, I assume the role of praxia, while my supervisors fill the role of theoria, following Martensen and Lee approach, engaging in discussions per Gilway and Sanchez suggestion. From this reflexive process, we identified 5 emerging themes regarding the partnerships aspect of a collaborative project-based learning. Planting mangroves as a learning project is an obvious choice for environmental educators operating in coastal tropics. It is educational, transformative, and directly addresses one of the wicked problems in the environment. However, it is challenging to execute, which is reflected in the limited number of educators who conduct these projects regularly. As an early career educator at a relatively new university with limited resources and support, it was practically impossible for me to undertake a mangrove planting project without external partners. Deborah Rowe and Krista Hisa posit that real-world projects generate meaningful learning and competencies that go beyond what can be gained in the classroom. In a mangrove planting projects, these outcomes are directly proportional to the resources needed to carry out the project. At a minimum, we need ready-to-plant mangrove seedlings, which require a lengthy process, harvesting ripe propagules from mature mangrove trees and cultivating them in nurseries for several months before they are ready to plant. There are many risks and technical challenges in this process. Mangrove forests are difficult to access. Mature mangrove trees in the tropics can grow over 15 meters, and mangrove ecosystems are dense and teeming with wildlife, including insects, reptiles, and arboreal primates. From experience, I concluded that having students harvest mangrove propagules is feasible only in courses focused on mangrove study, such as mangrove ecology. However, it is not ideal for broader courses like marine biology or marine and coastal conservation, which I also taught. Another option is to procure ready-to-plant mangrove seedlings from local cultivators, but this can be costly, as the price of a single seedling is roughly equivalent to $1. This is not financially viable for a student-led project. This is where partnerships become essential. I needed partners who could share the project's costs so that students could focus on the learning and technical aspects. Finding such partners was a bit challenging. My hope was that potential partners would acknowledge my academic expertise and entrust us with part of their environmental mission. In our first project, we attracted a few interested parties with a well-prepared proposal. Ultimately, we chose a government agency focused on forest and riverine conservation as our partner to avoid the additional demands that might come with more commercially oriented entities. Over the years, we maintained this partnership with the conservation agency, whom I now consider our core collaborator. Some of my students interned with or worked for the agency after graduation. Beyond our core partner, we also needed additional partnerships to scale up the project. For this, we reached out to media partners to help spread awareness and encourage broader participation and ownership of the environmental mission. We achieved this by sending press releases and event invitations to local TV stations, radio stations, and newspapers. Good intentions beget goodwill, and most of the media outlets we contacted responded positively. Starting with our third project, we received free advertising announcing our events call for participants on radio and newspapers. The media also covered our events in their respective outlets. As a result, my students and I were frequently invited to participate in radio shows to discuss environmental issues and commemorate environmental awareness days. In a personal way, a mangrove planting project has proven to be self-sustaining in terms of social exposure. It is a unique experience that encourages everyone to capture the moments and post them on their social media, providing exposure and adding a cool factor for the audience. Starting from our third project, we created ribbons and a logo stamp for the participants to commemorate their social media posts. I love good fun days in the field doing meaningful work for the environment. I would like everyone to feel the same way too. For this, we need more partners to participate, lend expertise, provide support, and make the experience better for everyone. Bintan Island is a beautiful tropical paradise with many resorts and hotels capitalizing on the natural beauty of its coast and waters. It is in the interest of the tourism sector for the coastal environment to stay pristine. Some of the resorts also offers environment experience such as turtle release, mangrove tour, and mangrove planting as a tour package. A trustworthy, steady, and well-publicized mangrove project is very attractive to them. In turn, their contributions add unique value in terms of diversity of participants they bring to the event itself. We have had a strong partnership with many tourism operators. By partnering with them, we were able to reach a new layer of audiences from various nationalities, echoing our message further while also providing my students with the opportunity to practice their communication skills in alignment with the concept of environmental literacy. I was keenly aware that by partnering with hotel and resort operators, we were helping to bridge a long-standing divide and address criticism aimed at the exclusive tourism establishment on the island. For many years, the expensive resorts operating in foreign currency, with their high walls and private beaches, have been perceived as disconnected from the surrounding community. One of the most important revelations that I have gained through waves of reflexive process is that being an initiator means being happy when others take ownership of the initiative. At our planting events, some of the larger partner organizations broke their own media teams to create their own coverage of the event. Consequently, they would write their own narratives, some of which centered around their own contributions rather than the mission at hand or my students' hard work. The younger activist me would have been restless about this. However, the older educator me realizes that a lasting partnership comes with healthy compromises. There is no harm in other taking ownership of our work, especially in environmental projects. In fact, that is part of the mission to embrace everyone, making them feel involved and invested in the initiative. This is just a very good way to foster environmental stewardship. All of these environmental projects were meant to benefit my students first, and the collaborations and partnerships have provided important and unique lessons for them. Designing and leading the projects put them in charge of large crowds, empowering them in ways I never could in a classroom. They found themselves in the spotlight, being acknowledged and seen as the primary advocates for a meaningful cause. This gives them an authoritative role, enabling them to liaise with and negotiate with environmental stakeholders with confidence and urgency. In the context of our projects, my students are inseparable from me. During this presentation, when I say we, I mean my students and myself. I love seeing them take ownership of the project and its legacy. Every time I send an invitation to revisit and survey our planting site in the department alumni WhatsApp group, there are always enthusiastic responses. Meeting them in the field again is as rewarding as watching the mangroves we planted grow. When I return to survey the success of our planting, I feel that the activist in me continues on through them. Thank you for walking with me to the end of this presentation. To me, this ethnographic reflection helped me learn from my experience. It also tremendously helpful for me to examine what I want to achieve as an educator and ultimately influence and define my direction for my PhD project. If you have any feedback and input for me, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.